Let me know when you can see my screen. I will start sharing now. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, fantastic. And you started recording, right?
Yes, please.
All right, fantastic. All right, everyone. Good evening. My name is 𝐂𝐎𝐍𝐄𝐂𝐓. I will be taking you in your class today. It's on strategy analysis, and we're focusing on gap analysis, which is part of strategy analysis. I want to give you a very broad overview of the topic, and then if you have any questions, we can talk about that. But I like taking this class because strategy is something senior members of the organization do. It's not something junior BAs do. So once you have an understanding of strategy, you can talk about it intelligently, have a bit of an understanding. It puts you on another level, right? Strategy is about decision making. Strategy is about foresight. You're forecasting. You're basically looking at all the different elements you're looking at now and saying, okay, this is where we want to go to, and this is how we get there. And to drive the direction of an organization or even a project, let's not even go too far, a project is a decision maker's role. So even the fact that you know about it and you've participated a bit in it, it puts you, it sets you apart from a beginner. No beginner has strategy analysis as part of their toolkit. So I like taking this class, not just to give you some insight into that, but also to pique your knowledge. It's just an hour and a half class. So there's no way we can go into in depth into all of this. It's a huge, broad topic. But I just want to give you a bit of an insight into it. You go ahead and do your own research, go and learn a bit more about it, and then hopefully grow your knowledge. Yeah, and you're able to talk about it intelligently and show your knowledge. So like I said, that's basically why I take this class. And like I said, even though I can't go in depth into it, I think your next class is going to be on business case, and that's what one of the elements, that's one of the outputs of strategy analysis. So it was supposed to come first before this class. You're supposed to have that yesterday, but it was moved to next week. So I think it works better anyway, because this will kind of give you a bit of a better insight. And then when you do that class, it'll add to it as well. So yeah, that's the background behind this. So it's going to be a lot of knowledge um, very quickly. So I know you're going to have to watch this recording again. So I put in a lot of text on here. So when you're going over the video, you can go over the text. And like I said, it's just an introduction. You would need to do your own research and learn a bit more. And again, like I said, we're going to talk specifically about gap analysis. All right. So again, about this class, so we're going to again talk about strategy analysis and gap analysis in particular. We're going to understand the current, when we talk about the current state, what that means, defining the future state, exactly what that means, performing the gap analysis, some of the tools and techniques that I use for gap analysis. I think with my skip real world case study, and then some key takeaways, Q&As, and yeah, I think you're supposed to have a task after this. So I'll probably give you a task as well. If you have any questions, I know we have Q&A at the end of it, but if you have any questions, you can stop me, just, unmute and, just ask your question. You don't have to wait till the end, but hopefully I'll be able to remember from time to time, and I'll just prompt you to ask if you have any questions, even, before we get to the end. If you do, please feel free. If you raise up your hand, I'm sharing my screen, so I may not see it. Just unmute and ask your question. Okay. All right. So basically, what is strategy analysis, right? I talked about the fact that it's a very high level activity that is done, even though it is part of the BA's wheelhouse, but it's usually an intermediate BA, a senior BA role. Yeah. And it's basically understanding the business environment, right? It has to do with you understanding what the current position is of the business, understanding where the business wants to go to, and determining the best course of action to achieve those business goals. Yeah. So again, you can use it for a big organization, like organization wide, enterprise wide, for the whole organization, or you can do it for like a particular project or initiative. The principles work the same way, so it, just think about it this way. If, for example, you're planning a trip, right? Remember when you were a child, and some of us, or even now with your family, as the parents, you're the one that plans a trip. And then the kids you just tell them this is what we're doing. Everyone is excited. If they're packing their own thing, what they want to do, all those sorts of things. But the parents have the responsibility of planning the entire trip, taking into consideration each child's needs. Maybe you have 3 kids, each child's needs, um, you know, deciding where you want to go to. So this is what we want to get out of the trip. Maybe we want to go and see Scandinavian countries or Nordic countries, and you're like, okay, let's go to Denmark, Sweden, and Norway. Let's see some countries, maybe see the Northern Lights, give the kids an unforgettable experience. In order to do that, how much money do we need? What's our mode of transportation? Are we going by train to be able to see the scenery more? Are we going by air, or are we driving? Maybe we get to a particular place, we rent a car and then we drive. Where are we spending the night? How long is the trip going to be? Is it going to be 2 days, 5 days, 7 days? All the different things that have to do. What are the kids going to eat? If the kids have anything in particular they want, the parents are the ones responsible for making sure that those things are available. So just think of yourself in that position. But if you're the child, your parents just come and tell you, oh, this is what we're doing for, summer vacation, blah, 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 blah. And you're like, oh, can we do this? Can we do this? Sometimes they'll tell you yes, they'll tell you no. But they are the decision makers, right? They are the ones that know where you want to go, and they know what the plan is to get there. So now in the context of a business, right? The business has its objectives, it has its goals, it has the problems it wants to solve. Now, you as a BA, you have to understand not just that problem, but the environment that the problem exists in. What kind of business are we talking about? What kind of business domain are we talking about? What's the current position that business is in? Where does that business want to go? And then what are some of the recommended ways to get there? What are our competitors doing? Right? What are the trends in the market? What things should we bear in mind? Maybe what's the political states, or the environmental state, or the legal state? There are loads of different things you have to put into consideration when you're thinking of all these things. It's never done in isolation. It's done in collaboration with a lot of different parties and all of that. So as you can see, it's high level thinking. It's understanding what the issue is, and then you start solutionizing, coming up with different solutions. And then not just random solutions. Even when you have a solution or a course of action, you have to back up why you think this would work, or this would work, or this would work. There's always data that backs up everything you're doing. It's never just done in randomly and all of that. So again, before any work gets started, before anything gets started, strategy analysis is what needs to get done first and foremost. Because if you don't do this, you're going to risk, developing the wrong thing, right? So there are so many different stories, like the horror stories of businesses that have had such, big lofty ideas, and they've gone ahead to build something that they think people want, and then at the end of the day, it's not fit for purpose. They've just wasted money. No one can use it. The customers don't use it, don't need it. The people they designed it for don't want it. They're not using it. It's just a waste of money. And that's because they didn't spend time, doing strategy analysis. So a lot of the companies that do strategy analysis are companies that have been burnt in the past. They will tell you that we've wasted money on doing it this other way. So now we want to go back and follow these steps. Most people think it's a waste of time, but it's only when you've been burnt, when you spend money and you're like, what did we even spend this money on? On a solution that nobody wants, nobody needs, no one can use. And they have to go back again to start doing that thing again. Most of those organizations know that there is value in strategy analysis, and they want people that know how to do it. So when you have this as part of your toolkit, it's really very, it sets you apart. Okay. So like I said, it's the critical upfront work that you as a BA you need to do to understand the real problem, not the one they told you is the problem, or the real problem that you're supposed to solve. What are the objectives? And they have to be measurable. Because if we say this is the objective, then we have to be able to measure when we achieve it. What are the viable solutions? And these are the solutions because of these reasons. And then align them to the strategic goals of the business. And when you do it this way, it takes time, trust me, upfront. But by the time you do it this way, you can ensure that you will not build the wrong solution, that you're going to get it right the first time. Okay. So again, why do we need strategy analysis? It prevents costly mistakes, right? It clarifies the business needs. So many times you think you're solving for one thing and you're solving for something else. So you just need to understand what exactly is the business need. It's not as clear as people sometimes think it is, because there are so many different moving parts, so many different parts of the organization, even the project. There are so many different stakeholders. So it helps you clarify what the business need is before you start solutionizing. So coming up with solutions is at the end, when you have understood the business need, understood the current state, understood where you're going, then you now come up with solutions. And while you're still talking about the business need, if someone starts talking about solution, you just tell them, wait, not yet, just chill. Let's get there first. Yeah. If not, people will make mistakes. So there is a reason for the pattern. And a lot of times it's so funny in meetings now, you see, especially people when it comes to IT people, because they're so used to coming up with solutions. So already when you're talking to them about the project, they're like, okay, why don't you do this? Why don't you do this? And then people that are mature enough are like, yes, I know, I'm so sorry, I'm solutionalizing. Okay, no problem. Let's understand what the problem is. So that they actually catch themselves. They're so used to doing it because IT is usually solutions, but they kind of catch themselves. And but people that are not very self-aware, you almost have to tell them, oh, we'll get to that part eventually. We just want to understand, what the business need is and what problem we're trying to solve for. And again, it avoids, like I said, you do the right thing the right way, and it avoids, you having unclear objectives, and by the time you finish spending money, you can't justify what you spent it on anymore. So it's really, really very important. And like I said, most of the time as a BA, by the time you get the project, this bit has already been done. Hopefully, hopefully if they know what they're doing, they've already done this bit. But to be part of this process is really cool. So yeah, it's really nice. And like the image says, it starts with understanding what the current state is, defining what the future state is, assessing the risks, and then you now come up with a strategy. Only after you've done these things do you come up with a strategy. Anybody coming up with a solution or a strategy before understanding the current state, defining the future state, assessing what your risks are and how to mitigate it, they're not doing it properly, and they're liable to make mistakes. Okay. So these are some of the key concepts, right? Um, Again, like I said, people that do it understand the power of transformational thinking, right? And then it's not just going in to do project. Why are we doing what we're doing? What value do we are we getting from this project, and how does that align with our goals, right? And making sure that those projects align with solving real business needs, right? And it helps by the time you do this and you can come up with the actual with clarity. You understand the business problem, understand what the need is, understand what you're solving for, what you're creating. The whole team has clarity. Everyone speaks in the same language, yeah, and then you know that there's proper alignment all through. Okay, again, like I said, it not only applies to project work but to programs and different business improvement initiatives and enterprise-wide, enterprise organization-wide change, right? Just to clarify, I'm sure you guys know, but a project is a single project. A program is a collection of projects. So if, for example, you have different projects going on simultaneously, all working to the same goal, they are called programs. That's called a program, right? A program is a collection of projects all working towards the same need. Just like you have user stories that an epic is a collection of features, which are a collection of user stories. So that kind of breakdown, right? So a project, more than one project makes a program. So you have the way you have a project manager, you also have a program manager. The program manager is the one that keeps an eye on the different projects contained in his program or his or his or her different programs. And then each project has its own project manager, right? And you see some of that eventually, especially if you work in a very large organization that has all these different things. Governmental organizations are like that as well, and then even private organizations that are really large, you come across this a lot. So strategic analysis has to do with not just project work but program work, BAU, business as usual. So business improvement initiatives and organization wide initiatives for change. Okay, so these are, when you understand these, obviously it help you as a BA. Okay, for tactical solutions and strategic solutions. Okay, yeah, it's fine. If there are terms you are not familiar with, you can take a note of them, ask a bit later, or you do your research and find out what they mean. Okay. So some of the key concepts are change initiatives. Please ignore that. Change initiatives. Okay. So change initiative is a focused, I won't call it a project. It could just be a piece of work. It might not necessarily be a project. It might just be a piece of work that you do, but it's to solve a particular business problem or achieve a business need. An initiative can be a project as well, but it doesn't have to be. But just a change, a piece of work, right? It's focused towards solving a particular business problem or achieving a particular objective. So we've talked about business need. Okay, it's either a problem or an opportunity. So it can be both. It doesn't always have to be a problem. It's either a problem, something wrong that needs to be fixed, or an opportunity that people need to take advantage of. For example, a problem is if you have a manual process that people can automate, is slowing down a lot of issues, or maybe you have a delivery problem that, deliveries are not really getting done on time, and it's a problem. The customers are the business customers are complaining, all of that. An opportunity is something that the business can take advantage of to its benefit. Let me give you an example. For example, like all these AI trends going around, if someone doesn't have AI in their organization, it's not really a problem, but they're missing out on the opportunity that it presents to speed up, processes, all the many different benefits of AI. So that's an opportunity that is available for the business to take advantage of and help streamline its processes. Yeah. So it's either a problem or an activity. and this is what would drive the need for the change. Okay. Then the goal are like business statements to say, this is what we want to achieve. That's a goal or an objective, right? So it has to be specific, it has to be measurable, it has to be time bound. We all know about SMART, right? So it has to be specific, measurable, actionable. What's our um uh
Realistic.
realistic, thank you very much, and then time bound. So it has to be something that is realistically able, the company is able to sort out. So that an objective has to follow all those criteria, right? And your goal is just your statement, like this is what the business wants to do. So that's the goal or initiative. Then your current state is called your as is. I'm sure you've heard of as is process maps. That's what it is. So it's to capture the current state. Yeah, it doesn't only apply to process maps. As is business process. As is just when you hear as is, it's just I want to know what the current state is. I know it's bad or I know it's good or whatever, but I just want to define what the current state is. So, how does the business operate today? What are its people, systems, services, all of it? You just want to capture it, right? Because if you don't know where you are, then how will you know what it will take to get you to where you want to be, right? Which will now be the future state. So where is that place we want to go? Where is that destination? Where is that condition? Where is that position we want to put ourselves in future? Yeah. After we've implemented this change, where is it that we want to be? So you have to define it as well, because again, if you don't know where you want to go, how will you know when you get there? How will you know what it will take for you to get there? How will you know the people you need? Remember, you need resources, human resources, material resources, financial resources. You need all these things. So if you don't know what the future state is, then how do you know what you need? You're just, moving around. A lot of times they say a lot of times motion doesn't mean progress. You're just moving around. You're not really making any progress. So you have to make sure that whatever motion you're in, whatever you're doing is moving you towards a state. That's why we keep saying, think about the value your sprints are adding. Always think about the value. So what are we getting out of this activity that we're doing? What's the benefit? What's the value? What's the add-on? So all these things are key concepts when it comes to strategy analysis. So going over to the first one, again, you can't fix what you don't understand. You can't. It's not possible. So a lot of times you have to take time to understand what exactly is the problem. I keep saying people, it's not as easy as you think. You could just say, for example, the package was delayed. Why was it delayed? Oh, the driver arrived late. So that's why. You can fire that driver and you still have the problem tomorrow. Or why did the driver come late? Because the truck, there was a problem. You can change that truck, the driver will still come late. So you have to keep digging until you understand what the current state is. Just keep going. What's that process? If you don't understand the process, then you won't be able to interrogate each step of that process to find out what the problem is. So you must understand what the current state is, right? It's the beginning of strategy analysis. That's where it starts, right? They call it the foundational step. You have to understand the current state before you start even defining what the problem is. Remember, you have to know what problem to solve for. If you don't even understand how the business works, how do you know what the problem is? So that's always the first step. Understand what the current state is. It will help you in defining what the problem is, understanding what the problem statement is. We're talking about problem statement. This will help you understand what the problem statement is. Understand what the problem is, and then you can create a problem statement when you understand what the problem is. Understanding the root cause. I keep saying I love business analysis because the terms are, you understand the terms by the word. Root cause. Imagine a tree. The tree is either flourishing, meanwhile the root is dying. Or maybe the tree is dying, but the root is flourishing. Until you check the root, you can't really tell what's happening with that tree. You have to find out what the root cause is. You have to dig deep in order to find out what it is. So there's something called root cause analysis, and we'll get to that anyway. Then you now have to remember our stakeholders. Very important. There's nothing we do without stakeholders. Once you do all of this, then you align all the stakeholders around the facts. And when people are talking about, oh, is this, you're like, no, 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 we've done our root cause analysis. This is actually what the problem is. Or they'll say this person's problem. You're like, no, 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 we've done our problem statement. This is actually what we found that the problem is. And you back it up with facts. It's not just saying to say. You have to back it up with facts. Most of the times, all these demos and presentations, you're giving them facts, and based on the facts, this is what we found out was the problem, what the root cause is, blah, 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 blah. So everybody is aligned under the same facts, okay? So a thorough career statement and assessment that will make sure that your strategy is grounded in reality, your solution targets your true issues, and the stakeholders are united around the same problem. Again, you define the problem, uncover the root causes, make sure that the stakeholders are aligned around the facts, and then you can now give recommended strategic recommendations. Everything we do as BAs, see, it's not, we're not really the decision makers. Yeah, we come in, we analyze what the issue is, and then we recommend based on facts. So we give data. The decision makers are able to make decisions based on our recommendations, which is backed by facts. So that's what we do most of the time. If you want to be a decision maker, you might need to become like a you know, I don't know, another position, but business analysts, a lot of times we go in, we're doctors, we go in to find out. It's like a doctor doesn't make decisions. They'll go in, they'll analyze what the problem is, and they'll tell the patient and they'll ask them, these are your options. What do you want to do? When you tell me what you want to do, then I'll start work. So that's what we are. Yeah. So can't tell all your parents that wanted you to be doctors that you're now a business doctor, a business analyst. So okay, so now let's talk about root cause analysis. I've already alluded to it in my previous statement, right? So you uncover the cause of a business issue. So you're not addressing any symptom, right? And then again, it's so important to do a root cause analysis because you can address the right problem and make sure that you don't make costly mistakes. Okay. So there are many different tools. Again, I made this very, very not solution. I made it very tool heavy, technique heavy, just to give you an idea of some of the tools we have out there and what they're used for. So we have the 5 whys. So the 5 whys is asking the question why. Obviously, it's not this simple, right? But the simple solution is you're asking why at least 5 times. So, like the example I was giving you, oh, the delivery was, the delivery came in late. Why did the delivery come in late? Or because the bus driver or the delivery man delivered it late. Why did the delivery man deliver it late? Oh, because there was a problem with dispatch at his depot. Oh, why was there a problem with dispatch at the depot? Oh, it's a new application they're using there. I think they changed it recently, and because of that, people don't really understand how to use it. Oh, so why exactly do people not understand how to use it? They implemented it or something that they just got off the shelf and they haven't really done training. So people are just trying to, find out how to use it. You can keep going, but if you've gotten to, there's no more why left, like that's the end of it, then you know that if you sort out the training of that application and then the delivery gets, the details get given to the driver on time, the driver will deliver the package on time and you guys will be okay. Rather than saying, I don't like that delivery guy, please give me another delivery guy. The other delivery guy will have the same issue again because you did not go through the 5 whys. So it's not just 5. Sometimes it can be 6, 7. Just keep going until you get to the end of that problem, the root cause of that problem. It's not as simple as people think it is. You just imagine you going late to work. Why were you late to work? Oh, you're always coming late. You're always coming late. Why were you late to work? Oh, I left late. Why did you leave late? I slept late. Why did you sleep late? You just keep going, and it happens almost every issue. You just keep digging deeper until you find out the real reason. When you find out the real reason, then you know you're solving the right thing. And once you solve that thing, everything else will fall into place. So that's a very popular technique that is used. Then we have the fishbone diagram, also called the Ishikawa diagram, right? It's as you can see, it looks like a fishbone with the head and the different fish bones, right? So the head is the problem. What's the problem, right? You now find out what the problem is. Then you now find out all the different aspects of the problem. This problem affects our people, it affects our processes, it affects our equipment, it affects even the management, and you just list out all the different aspects of that is touched by that particular problem. Once you've listed that one out, then you pick people. Okay, now let's dig which people are affected by this problem. You now dig deep into people. Once you've highlighted all the people that are affected, then you now go to the next process. What are all the processes that are affected by this issue? You now dig, so on until you do that to all the different subheads. So you have like a head, what the problem is. Then you have like the subheads. Then for each of the subheads, you now dig deep to find out everything that has been affected. This is so you can get a solution that resolves all those issues. Because if you don't, you may know what the problem is and know that it affects people and processes, and you may not know all the people and processes it affects. Or let's say you even do, and you solve all the issues for people and process. You've left management, you've left environment, you've left equipment, you've left everything else. So you've only solved part of the problem. You haven't solved everything. So a fishbone diagram, it helps you dig deep. Again, root cause. What is the main issue and what does it affect or what causes it? Maybe the problem is caused by this thing, or maybe it affects these things. But when you actually interrogate all these aspects, then you can have a holistic solution that solves everything, right? And then you now have obviously the interrelationship diagram as well, right? So you have something that is a problem that affects something else, and that thing affects something else, and that thing affects something else. So you have to map out all the issues and how they're all related to each other. Because if you don't, while you're solving one, something else is breaking. While you're solving one, something else is breaking, right? Let me give you an example. Okay, so in my organization, they want to do something regarding under 16s. In the UK, under 16s are still under parents, right? Under legal guardians, but they have a bit of autonomy. Let's say, for example, when it comes to things like mental health, even though they need a parent's say so, the parent can also allow them talk to the mental health person by themselves. They just need for the guardian to give them the go ahead, but the guardian doesn't have to be there, which is like a very young child, maybe a 5-year old, 6-year old, 7-year old child. Maybe the guardian needs to be there, but for 16-year-olds and around that age, there may be some safeguarding policies that they have to take into consideration. So anyway, we have to get a solution that takes into account there's so many different aspects when you're thinking about an under 16, because they're not adults, but they're not small children, right? So they have a very funny category that you have to take into legal guardianship, their own mental health, their own medical needs, and the government policies regarding them, all these different things. So like, okay, we want to create a product for them. This application we need to work with this application, and then when we work with this application, then blah 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 blah, everything will be sorted. And then another department, digital, comes up and says, no, 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 no. I get it that you guys want to do all of this, but if you do this, it could break something we already have sorted, because we already have products for under 16. So I guess you want to create another product for them. But if you don't take into account the things in our own area, something could break. So we need to be involved. We're not the ones creating it all, but we need to be involved in what it is you're doing. While they were doing that, another team, the clinical team, were like, guys, I'm so sorry you're doing all of this, but what you're doing also affects us. You can't just go ahead and create a product. Yes, I know you've involved digital, but we are also the clinical team. So these different groups are like, it's not our product. It's another what do they call it? It's another department's product, but it affects. There's an interrelationship with other departments. So even if they're not the ones spearheading that product, they need to be carried along. They need to make sure that what you're doing does not break anything they currently have, right? So there are relationships in organizations that have to do with either processes, people, departments, whatever it is. And in order to find the root cause, you need to interrogate all those relationships, find out all of them, find out how they're related with each other, and then solve holistically. So that's another root cause. You need to go and find the roots and the relationship between all these things and all these people, right? So you see why they pay people the big bucks for this. There's a lot of thinking that goes ahead and that goes into it. So yeah, it's yeah. So this is another tool, right, for understanding. Remember what we're doing. We're trying to understand the current states. That's still where we are, okay? So all these tools and techniques are to understand the current state. As a BA, you need to know, again, as a more senior BA, not a younger person. Like I said, this is just to pique your interest and let you know what, as you progress your career, there are other things to learn as well that you may not learn. So don't be afraid, okay? Just focus on what you're doing. But this is just to show you that there's a lot more to learn, okay? But as a BA, it's good to have knowledge of all these tools and techniques. And then when you're in a particular situation, you find out which one best suits that position, and that's the one you use. So it's not like you use all these different things all at once. Like I just told you about 3 different tools. This is not all low, but these are just 3 tools for root cause analysis. You can pick 5 whys and use 5 whys if that's the best suited one. You can decide you want to use fishbone. You can decide you want to use interrelationship diagram. You can decide on a number of other root cause analysis tools and techniques, right? So it's not like you have to use all of it. You can just pick one and use the best one that is most suitable for that particular position. So same with this as well, right? So this is a business model canvas, right? It's used mainly for businesses that have like value chains, right? That okay, this is the value proposition of the business. These are the customer relationships. These are the different customer segments. These are the channels that they use to reach their customers, right? These are some of the key activities they work on. These are some of their partners that they work with. These are some of the key resources they use. These are some of the revenue streams they have, and then the cost structure. So the part below is financial, right? The main part is what value does the business. If so, for example, Apple, right? If you want to do a business model canvas for Apple, what is Apple's value proposition, right? They will tell you think differently. They create devices or whatever for people that think differently, or who are the crazy ones, all those sorts of things. But obviously mobile devices, a lot of different things. So you highlight the organization's value proposal and propositions. What value do they say they add? Then what are all their different customer relationships, right? Customer segments. They have people that are Mac, then you have iOS, then you have your mobile devices, your phones. You have, like, just think of all the different arms that Apple deals in. That's even the hardware thing, or we haven't even gone into iTunes or Apple shop or their headphones. There's so much, right? There's so much they do, right? So those are the different customer segments. They have different customer relationships. What channels do they use? They obviously use online. They have physical stores. They have, marketplaces, digital market. They have so many different things. So they have loads and loads of channels. Their social media channels, so many different channels that they use to do what they do. What are some of the key activities they do? You can list it. What are the key resources? You can list it. What are some of their partners? They have partners that they work with. Yeah, we talk about Apple phones are made in China, or these people design their battery, or what they call it, that their chip. These part, I don't know what internet business designs their chip. So these other people make the case of their phone. These ones make the screen. These ones make the internal thing. So they have key partners that they work with in order to deliver on their value proposition. Then they have resources. What resources do they have? How do they make money? What's their revenue stream? What do they spend their money on? Cost structure. So by the time you take any organization, you can break it down into this. It's just like a one pager, right? That tells you everything. Well, not everything. The key things about the organization. It says it's a snapshot of how an organization works, what it delivers, what value it gives, and how it sustains itself. Obviously, revenue streams, right? So that's what the business model canvas does, right? So it in one page, right? It tells you why this business is so successful or maybe not. And then you can even see some of the areas of improvement. For example, if you can list a few channels and you're like, oh, why isn't it on this other channel? Um, doesn't this business have social media? Don't they have this? Don't they have this? Don't they have this? Why don't they have that? So when you see it like this, you can already start to see some areas of improvement, or areas of where the business can do better. Okay, and you fill it with the need of your stakeholders. You're not doing any of this by yourself. Okay, so you can have workshops and interviews for the various business heads to fill all these gaps for you, and all those sorts of things. All right. So the next one that we want to do is the SWOT analysis, right? I'm sure a lot of you know what SWOT is, right? So it's an acronym for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, right? So the strengths and weaknesses are internal, while the opportunities and threats are external. Your strengths, what does a company do very well? What are they good at? Yeah. What is their competitive advantage or their unique selling point? Weaknesses, what are they lacking? Do you understand? Where are they struggling? Where can they improve on? Opportunities, external opportunities. What's trending? What can the business use? Maybe there are policies that have been enacted that favor the organization. Threats, maybe their competitors. Are there policies, again, external things that are coming for the business? If you guys don't shape up, these guys will take your market share, or they could put you in trouble. So again, it's to identify strengths and weaknesses, internal strengths and weaknesses, as well as external opportunities and threats. Okay, so again, it's used to access how your business is positioned in its market, within its competitors, right? And the different risks that are facing it, because your weaknesses are a risk, your untapped opportunities are a risk, your unmitigated threats are a risk, right? If you don't even know your strengths, you don't know what you're doing well, and you don't continue doing it well, it's also a risk. So all these things are risks, and it's a structured way of assessing, remember, current states, what your current capabilities are, and it helps you plan against potential risks and to take advantage of opportunities. Process modeling, the one a lot of people know, right? It's your as is, then your process, and your to be. Okay, so process modeling is not just process maps. There are many different ways, different kinds of process models. So process models are very, very, very wide. There are many different kinds of process models. It's not just process maps. Okay, process maps is one of them, but when you talk about process modeling, it's bigger than just process maps, right? But the purpose is the same, is to have a visual representation of how the work is currently being done. And when you're talking about process, you're not talking about the actions that are being done within the organization. Process is activity, process is tasks. So process is you're pinpointing how the business does what it does, right? So you're delving deeper. You want to do step by step across different people, teams, systems, and all of that. And it's one of the best ways to show how the business works, so you can get clarity, find out if there are any bottlenecks, if there are any pain points, and then you can help stakeholders make sure that they understand how the things are done operationally, how the work flows, right? It's one thing to say this is how I think it is, and another thing to see a process map as to how things are actually done, right? And you can do this by creating discovery workshops where you're talking through process maps. I had a BA who is working in a particular organization. She's working on 3 projects, right? It's not an organization, and they just brought the BA in, like the project team in specifically for 3 big projects, right? To do with their HR systems, financial systems, and CRM systems, right? And so she's been doing elicitation, discovery, all those sorts of things. So she now wants to create process maps. And she's like, oh, I want to, have a workshop, all of that. And I just thought it's not a very good use of a workshop, because a workshop is bringing many different people together, right? It's very good when you're doing discovery. Workshops are brilliant when it comes to discovery. But when it comes to process modeling, it's not that good, because almost every team in the room has a different process. Remember, process is step by step. How do I do my job? Chances are all those different people do different jobs. So their processes are not the same. So to bring loads of different people in, how will you get each person's process? Is it that other people will be keeping quiet? Then number one will talk through their process. Everybody's just keeping quiet. Then the other person will not talk. It's not a good use of people's time. Process maps are, if you're bringing a workshop together and you bring people that do the same job, so it's a big organization and you bring people that do one same job. So when they're talking, they all know what they're talking about and they're talking through a process. But if you can't do that, then it's better one-on-one or two, where each of the people tell you step by step how they get their work done. Okay, so as a BA, it's up to you to look at the situation and determine what tool works best, or what technique works best to get what you need to get out of that situation. So remember, it says discovery workshops, not process workshops. It's very different, right? So yeah. And then obviously you do your as is, and then you do your to be, and then you compare them, which is where gap analysis comes into play, but we'll talk about that a bit later. So now we want to talk about the future state. With all that previously have to do um with the current state. So understanding what the current state is. Now you have to define the future state. I like that term when it says defining, because it's not set in stone. It's very malleable until you guys decide where you want to go. Imagine you want to go on holiday. The whole world is your oyster. Yeah? Until you now start saying, okay, we have the money for only Europe, or we can't go beyond Europe. Yes, we want to go to Asia, we want to go to North America, we want to go to Australia, but our budget only covers Europe. So because of that, you've cut out the rest of it. Now in Europe, where do you want to go? Oh, we only have visas for Scandinavian countries. We don't have visas for these other countries. Again, so you're defining your future state. Initially, everything was possible. But by the time you start looking at your resources, start looking at your position, start looking at your people, you're like, we might not be able to do A, B, C, D, O. We can only do blah, 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 all of that. So it's you have to define it. I love this quote by Abraham Lincoln, where he says the best way to predict the future is to create it. So what kind of future do you want? You have to you have to define where you want to be in future. Oh, I want to be the top 10, you know, businesses in this particular domain. How do you get there? It's a very lofty statement, but by the time you start breaking it down, even you disqualify some things for yourself. Okay, so it's again, it's a shared vision. It's not just your vision. It just means you're creating a vision with all the stakeholders of what success looks like, right? Once we're done with this particular change initiative, it could be a project. Once we're done with this project, it could be a program. Once we're done with this program, this set of projects, this is what we want the future to look like. This is what we want to have achieved. This is the value we want to have added into the business. These are the amount of customers we want to have gotten, amount money, positioning, reputation, whatever it is you define as what the vision is. But everyone has to agree based on our current state and our resources, what we can do. This is what our future state looks like, right? Again, it's not good if one person is planning to go to um, Scotland, the other person is planning to go to Wales or whatever. Everyone's going in different directions. You Yes, we all have our different desires, but until we all come together and say, okay, let's agree that this is what we're going to achieve together, it will be really hard, right? So it's a shared understanding of what the outcomes are, benefits, and changes the organization will expect at the end of that project, right? Or that initiative, right? Once all your goals and objectives have been met. Again, it's not something you do by yourself. You basically identify who your key stakeholders are in that discussion. You talk with them, get their understanding of it. You use a lot of the business analysis techniques, some of which I'll talk to you about, and then you describe what the shared outcome is. Analyze the or what the organization has, the architecture, what value are you going to bring, and everybody agrees at the end of the day, right? So obviously there's a lot of discussion that has to go on to do this, right? So we're now identifying solution options. Okay, once we've done the let's skip this. Okay. Once you've done the yeah, okay, I'm going really quick because I want to go to gap analysis. Once you've done the current state, future state, then actually skipped a step. There's supposed to be risks talked about, but that's a different risk analysis is different on its own. But yeah, you once you understand the current state, define the future state, then you have to outline what the risks are and how you can mitigate them, right? Risks are things that could potentially go wrong. Okay. What is the risk of this thing happening if we go ahead with it? What is the risk if we don't do this thing? Sometimes when you tell people the risk of inaction could be greater than the risk of action, if you don't incorporate AI into what you're doing, your organization will be left behind, right? So there's a risk of inaction. It's not always when we do a particular thing, or what's the risk? Sometimes it's if you don't do anything. Maybe there's a new policy that came out and you have to change some of your business processes. If you don't do that, the risk is they're going to fine you. Serious, they're going to pay through your nose. You better step up and do what you need to do. So sometimes it's a risk of inaction. So risks are a very important part of solution strategy analysis. And then you come to once you have all these things in place, now solutions. What are solutions? How do we get there? Right? So identifying options is a solution options is another, like I said, that these four things are very important. This is the last one and the fourth one. And again, it requires collaboration, right? Based on everything you've done, feasibility studies, your SWOTs, your pestle analysis. I didn't put that in, but it's just another form of analysis where you look at what the political landscape is, environmental landscape, social landscape, technological landscape, legal landscape. I've said environmental, There's one more for the other E, environmental and I'll find my.
Economical. Is it
Thank you so
economical?
much. I don't know who that is. Thank you so much.
Rosemary.
Thank
Rosemary.
you so much. See, people know book, they know stuff. Well done. See, these are the things you need to. I hope you have PESEL in your CV. Make sure you have it there. It's very important. So yeah, the economical you know, benefits or consequences of what you're doing. It's also very important. Yeah. Again, you're going to work on the business case. The business case is one document where you can bring all these things together. I'll just talk about it very, very briefly. So I know we're talking about different aspects, but you can put all these things together in a business case. And once you have that business case, it's again the case for the business. It's like you have a legal case, evidence in support of or against. So anyway, I'll get there. So yeah, you now have your now you can identify what your potential solutions are. And again, it's not something you're doing off the cuff. It's all data driven, based on a lot of what you've done, based on insight from a lot of experts. Remember your SMEs, your subject matter experts. You can't do without them, right? Again, that's why I said anybody can be a business analyst, because it's not your knowledge. You're just going around to people that this is their life. This is what they know. You go to your financial guys, your HR guys, your data guys, your technology guys, your security guys. You just get the information together and use tools to present it in such a way that the decision makers will now make the decision based on your recommendation. So it's not your information. Don't get scared. None of the things we do is from us. We get it from other people. But you analyze it and you present it in such a way that decision makers are able to make decisions. So even things like solution options, you get it from SME. So what do you guys think? Oh, this is our current state. This is where we want to go, right? What do you guys think are the best solutions, right? Because you already have the current state and the future state. Some solutions will cancel themselves out. Some will be very, very good because it meets all the key requirements, right? So again, data driven, right? So it's really, again, like I said, it's not a solitary task at all. You facilitate. You don't own it. You bring the right people in the room and get them talking. That's what you do, right? And then your role is to guard the exploration. Then once they're done talking, you capture it. That you basically, all these ideas that are put, you put it down, you capture it, and then you present it in such a way that in the solutions they can see the business value. They can see how feasible is this thing, how doable is it, and then you can align it with, like, if we do this thing, we can achieve these particular strategic goals that the business is working towards. So it's a no-brainer, right? People can already see what the solution is. Okay. So don't get scared, right? So your sources and best practice, right? Solution discovery, again, is a collaborative effort with the right stakeholders, technical teams, even your customers. What do the customers want? Sometimes businesses are saying, "Oh, this is what we need to do." Have you asked your customers if they want that thing? You may get the best product in the world and nobody will touch it, right? Look at how many products that all these top organizations have created that just went. Nobody did. We ask you? I'm not going to buy it. I don't want to use it. What nonsense are you giving me? They are trying to bring all this wearable tech. Yes, we have Apple Watches and all of that, but they want to bring like all these Google glasses. They've done it like how many times before? They'll bring it out like this is the best, this is the best thing. Everybody's just looking at them like, who sent you? I'm not going to put that thing on my face. It will fizzle out. Then they'll bring it back again. Maybe after 5 years, they'll say, okay, we've redesigned it. Is this, is that? They'll have a few people that went, oh, when I'm wearing my glasses, I can see all these things. Everybody's like, who asked you? I don't want that. It will fizzle out again. So it's all these different products that people are bringing that nobody's like, who asked you? So sometimes you need to ask the customers, is this what you people want? Right? And then obviously other sources like vendors and, industry, other industry, you know, competitors, people on your level. What are other people doing? How are they doing it? So these are some of the sources you can use. Your vendors, your suppliers, people that work with you, partners, SMEs, very important, customers or your end users, your competitors, right? Competitor is not a bad word. It's just the people in doing the same thing you're doing, right? So if you level up, so you people are just competing for market share, but it's not a bad word, right? Benchmarking is what is available across the industry. What's the industry standard? So you have a benchmark to say if you're below this, you're not doing well based on industry standard. But if you're above it, then you're doing really well. So this is the benchmark, right? And then you now have competitors and your delivery teams. Again, best practice for strategy, it can't be a small amount of people. You have to go round to business stakeholders, people in technology, digital IT, customer facing roles. Talk to them, talk to them, talk to them. Yeah, talk to them. Find out the data they have. A lot of organizations, they work with data a lot. When they finish, like all these surveys that people send you, how did we do? How did we do? Sometimes you feel it, sometimes you don't feel it. Companies use that thing a lot because they may not come and ask you, but you just saying, oh, I really like that thing you people did, they'll pick it up and say, okay, let's do more of that. Or your service was crap. What utter nonsense. I did not like, I did not like. They'll pick that and just say, oh no, we can't do this anymore. So some of those surveys that they send you after anything they do for you, you just think, ugh. Some people feel it, and they use that for all these strategy discussions to say this is what our customers are saying, or we're doing well in this, let's do more of it, or we're not doing well, let's not do anything again. Then ideas, as the ideas are coming, just document it. Some will be good, some won't be good, but as a BA, just document the ideas as they're coming, right? And then again, you have to make sure that whatever you're recommending aligns with the business goals. You have to know that's why we started with what's the objective, what's the business need first, what's the opportunity, yeah, and then because everything has to align with all of that, yeah, and then you have your facilitation techniques. I won't go into all of that. I think we've touched that a bit earlier. And then your visual mind maps. Ijoma loves mind maps, and it's for very good reason. Keep loving it. Keep growing your knowledge in it. It's very, very good. Prioritization. Talked about all these, your grids, very important, and your matrices, they're very, very important as well. Okay. So these are some techniques that we've talked about. You've used them for requirements elicitation. You use them for this as well. That's what you're doing, right? So in order to get solutions, you elicit the information. It use it in many different ways. It's not just for requirements, it's for this as well, right? So we all know what elicitation is. We've been doing it for a long time. It's very, very good for strategy analysis. And remember, you have to dig for it. A lot of times it's not just, easy to pluck, but it's very essential, right? So again, these are some of the illustration techniques that you know and you love, right? So yeah. So financial analysis of your options. For this one, for those of us that are accountants, I'm sure they will love this. Adelu will know how she's an accountant. Oh my god. Or she has a background in accountancy. She loves all of this so, so, so much. For a lot of us, so don't get scared when they start telling you about, oh, I return on investments, net present value, blah blah blah. Just go and get your financial partner. They call them financial partners, financial SME, right? The people that do all these things, and then you talk to them and they'll help you with all of this. Basically, you just need the sums, you need the figures, and again, you get it from the stakeholders, right? So if, for example, you want to calculate the cost of implementing a new system. You calculate what the company is currently spending on the manual process. It takes these amount of people who are being paid this amount of time per hour, this long to do it. So you can say in a year, this is how much it costs the organization. Meanwhile, if we get the solution, yes, there will be an upfront cost. Let's say, for example, it's 300K, to pay these people to do this thing for a year. In we get a solution. Yes, the licenses, implementation costs, all of that will cost 250K, and then the project team to do it will cost 100K, and then licenses will cost extra 50K, so it's 400K. Meanwhile, this one is 300K. Should we not just continue with the 300K when it's going to cost us 400K to implement this? Like, yes, the first year will cost you 400K. The next year, you're not going to have the cost of the application. So 250K is gone. You don't have to pay year 2. You only pay the licensing, which is already 50K, and then you already pay what do they call it? For the people 100K, because now the process is efficient and you don't need to pay as many people. So maybe it took 3 people to do it, now it only takes 1 person, so you only have to pay them 100K. That's 150 in the second year. By the third year, you've gotten your money back. By fourth year, you're making profits. By fifth year, profit. So yes, initially one cost 300K, the other one cost 400K, but by year 2 is less. By year 3 is less. So by year 3, you've already hit break even. Like the company has broken even. Everything they've spent, they've recuperated back. Everything after that is profit. When you have that in front of a decision maker, they'll say, it will only take me 3 years to start making profit on this thing. Of course, I'm going to invest in it. So that's how you do financial analysis and all these things. You find out how much does it take for all these people to do what they do. Find out how much the organization costs. Just find all the costs. You can, again, you don't have to know how to do all these techniques. You already have a financial partner you work with. Just give them the calculations, give them the sums, right? That the people that are doing the job will give you. It's not like you're going to find it anyway. How much does your department take? They will tell you the figure. Shike, now you put the figure there. You bring how much does this one cost? The company will give you how much everything costs. You put the figure there, you give it to the financial person, he will do the calculation, you present it and say, voila. And voila. After 3 years, see your money. And everybody's clapping for you. You didn't have to do anything, right? So these are just some evaluation methods I've told you about: payback period, return on investments, internal rate of revenue, all those things. You can do your research to find out what they mean, but it's just a way of calculating how much the project will cost and when the business will start getting their money back, because money is very important. You have to be able to show how what the benefit is financially. Sometimes it's tangible benefit, sometimes it's non-tangible benefit. Sometimes you say these people, they've been working so long, the turnover, we don't have a lot of people in this position. They'll work hard, we'll overwork them, they'll leave. We'll have to train another person to do this thing. After 1 year, 1.5 years, 2 years, person will go. We have to train another person. The rate of turnover is too much. So even though there's no financial cost to that thing, this solution will make their life easy. We'll be able to retain our people. We won't be training people all the time. The turnover will go down. So you have tangible benefits and intangible benefits. You have to list some of these things down so the decision makers will take all these things into consideration. Again, you don't have to do it by yourself, right? You always have people you're working with. I've talked about elicitation techniques. Elicitation techniques for the financial aspect, right? Again, elicitation is good for everything, okay? For financial analysis, you use things like constraints and assumptions, risk, dependencies. All these things are very, very important, right? And this is just when you're watching the video. I won't go deeper into it. When you're watching the videos, these are the descriptions of what each one is, but they're usually very important when it comes to financial analysis to explore financial visibility and viability. So you can pause and read through or do additional research, right? Okay, here's our gap analysis. We're always talking about gap analysis here, right? So remember our previous tasks, right? We've understood what the current state is. We've defined what the future state wants to be. Now, to get from where we are to where we want to be, there's a gap, right? There's something missing. What is that thing missing? What is going to get us from where we are to where we want to be, from our current state to our desired future state, right? So it's a structured comparison between your current state and your future state, right? It's the gap that business objective, that project, that initiative you're working on, that is what will bridge that gap. But in order to find out what it is, you need to identify what that gap is, right? So what are your existing business capabilities? What can the business do? What are the business processes? How does the business perform? Then you now compare it to what you want the business capabilities to be, how you want the processes to run, and how you want the performance to be. So those are the areas of improvement. You say, okay, for example, I keep talking about manual process and automated process because it's one of the easiest things to think about. But like, okay, so we want to change our manual process to our automated process. Everybody understands the benefits. We've looked at the cost. Everything works great. We're bringing in a new application in here. What will it take to implement that solution, integrate it with our existing processes, and teach our people how to use it? Remember, this is a new process, so people don't know how to use this thing. This wonderful thing you're bringing, if you just bring it and dump it there, people just be looking at you. It's just like all these updates that your phone has. So many people have said, if you know the capability of that phone you have in your hand, you will marvel. Every time they keep doing updates. Most of us don't know, and we don't care. The few things we do with our phone, answer calls, we do text, we play some of our games, maybe some of us listen to music, blah, 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 send emails every now. The things we do on our phone, a lot of us, is what we do on our phone. Oh, this phone can do, it can do 1,001 other things. We don't know. And therefore, all those capabilities are going to waste. So you can bring in the best state-of-the-art application. This application will save us so much money. It will do this, it will do that, blah, blah, blah. If the people don't know how to use it, you've just wasted your time and wasted your money. So as part of that gap, training, support, implementation, you have to train the people on how to use that thing. You have to support them as they're using it. You have to teach them how to use the new capability. That's a gap that needs to be filled. Yeah. So it's all these things. You have to identify all these things. And then once you identify the thing that's missing, that thing will now form the core part of your project, because your project is to provide all the things that are missing to make sure that your business goes from its current state to its desired future state. But if you don't know what that thing is, you won't be able to provide it. You won't be able to, the project will just be a waste. So you have to identify what the gap is. Once you identify what the gap is, you analyze it. You list out all the capabilities, processes, resources that need to be done, and then those will form part of your project. And once you do that, you do that change initiative, that transformative initiative, then you'll be able to get your business from where you are to where you want to be. That's what a gap analysis is, right? So there are many different kinds. You identify all of them. What are the process gaps, performance gaps? What are the requirements that are missing? What are the capabilities that are missing? People don't call. What are the people? Knowledge gaps. There might be knowledge gaps. So you have to identify all the different gaps. And then your project is to make sure that those gaps are provided for so that you can get to your current state. I've just listed most of all of this, but I'll just basically read it again. Okay. So where and when do you use a gap analysis? Normally when you're launching a transformation project or a process redesign, right? You want to redesign a particular process. You've identified that process is a excuse me, is a blocker. It's a pain point, right? It's a bottleneck in your organization, and you want to redesign it. Okay. When you want to implement a new project, when there's underperformance in a particular area, when there's, again, I just talked about staff training and upskilling, that could be a gap, or you want to adopt a new technology, right? So that's very important. And the benefits are, again, align project goals with organizational strategy. Organizational strategy is that you know where you want to go. So your project has to be based on providing for those gaps. If your project doesn't provide for those gaps, then it's missing. It's missing something, right? So that's where the alignment comes in. It highlights the resources that are needed, the capabilities, and all these things where there's a problem. So if you identify where there's a problem, you know how the solution needs to go, right? Then your scope. So once you identify the gap, that's the scope. It cannot go beyond that. Anything else is out of scope, because we don't need that thing that's out of scope to get us to where we ought to be. We can streamline our needs to the capabilities we're able to identify during the gap analysis. There's no need to go beyond that. So it's very easy to define what your scope is. And then obviously you're able to prioritize, right? When do you want us to get to this future goal? If you want us to get there by this time, then we need to start the process by this time. So you have to prioritize it. Otherwise, you put it in the back burner, because organizations want to do many different things at the same time, but they have limited resources. So they have to prioritize, okay, we'll do this one first, then we'll do this one second, then we'll do this one second. So if you know where you want to go, then you can prioritize very easily. And then it makes a very good case for investment, right? If you know these are the people we need, you're introducing a new capability. No one in your organization knows that thing. You need someone who is an expert in that thing, not only to come and show you how to do it, but to train other people. So you identify that we need to invest in this particular resource. That's why people, a lot of times, they hire for what they want. They've identified that we need this particular kind of resource. We are not looking everywhere. We want this particular, so their job descriptions are very targeted. We know who we want because that person will fill the gap we have in this area, right? So when you're job hunting, be very, very conscious about your JDs. Very, very important. Processes, technology. We don't have the technology to do this thing. There's an application out there, a system out there that provides, that does all the things we want and more. Let's go and get it. How much will it cost? All those things. So yeah. So some of the tools you need for gap analysis. I'm going to go really quickly now because time is not our friend. So before we even go to all of this, sorry, do you guys have any questions? I told you it was a very meaty topic. Honestly, it's very, very, it's just, and this is, trust me, it's not even, there's a lot more to learn, but I just wanted to, show you a bit about it. Hopefully some of you might be very interested in it and learn more. But yeah, it's a lot. But I'll try and go really quickly now. But anyone has any questions? Nothing? Okay. I'll keep going. So some of the tools you need, your gap analysis matrix. Yeah. SWOT analysis. I've shown you what the SWOT analysis looks like. Process modeling, we've done your as-is and to-be. So when you're doing process modeling, you have at least two different processes. You have the one that outlines your current state, and you have the one that outlines your future state. So as-is and to-be, then you compare both of them. So that's where process modeling comes in. I've shown you what the business model canvas is, right? You have a canvas for your future states, and have the canvas for how you have the one that will, how it will look like when you've added that particular value, right? So you have to, again, in order to do gap analysis, you need to, right? You're like, this is how we are now, this is where we want to go, and then you now find out what the gap is. So normally, even whatever tool you're using, most of the time you need two of them, right? So that's how it works. Traceability matrix, same thing. You have a matrix, you know where you are and where you ought to be, and then you're able to identify the requirements that will get you from where you are to where you want to be, basically. And then you're able to trace it from that requirement to the business goal, right? Origin to delivery. Capability assessment framework, again, current maturity, target maturity. So how to guide, I've gone through most of this, right? For gap analysis, you define what the objective is. That's always number one. Do your assessing of your current state, define your future state, what are the gaps? Then you always come with your actions, recommended actions. Based on all the information you get, you recommend your actions. So it could be, we need to upskill, we need to upgrade our systems, We have to have new policies in place so people will know what to do, how to do, and then you prioritize using your beloved Moscow or value versus effort matrix to prioritize the gaps. So these are all the gaps. Which one do we need to do first, right? And all of that. So very, very important. Moving on. Once you have done all of that, this is, I think, the final one, right? And which would be a very good segue into your next class, right? Once you have done your gap analysis, then you're able to create your change strategy. So all this information that you've done now, you can now say, this is our business objective. This is our current state. This is where we need to go. These are some of the risks we're going to meet in our way. These are some of the solutions. And this is the gap from where, oh no, I missed gap. Gap is earlier between current and future. Gap, your risks, solution, and yeah, and now you have your change strategy. So based on all of this, you're like, this is, and finances, I miss finances, very important. Taking all these things into consideration, this is our change strategy. What's your change strategy? Is the roadmap, not just pie in the sky. This is what we like it to be. It is a detailed, data-driven roadmap on how the organization, using all its current resources, and it knows where it wants to, it knows where it is, it knows where it wants to go, it knows how to get there, it knows all the finances and resources it will need to get there, it knows the risks that are in its way and how to avoid them, it knows the best way to do it. It has given you a solution. This is your change strategy. One document that lists all these things. Every step of the way, you've seen how we've gotten to all those things. And that's when you get your business case. That's where your business case is. It's your justification to say, this project that we want to do, this is why we're doing it. This is the value it's going to add. This is what it's going to take. These are the benefits it's going to get. This is the time it's going to take us. These are the risks we're going to encounter. This is how we're going to mitigate all those risks. Blah, 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 blah. One document. All this information, your strategy analysis. The end result of your strategy analysis is a change strategy, because you have to have an action plan. Not just your action plan, but your roadmap to say, this is my map of where I want to, this is my destination, this is where I am, this is how I'm going to get there, these are all the things I'm going to use to get there, these are the benefits I'm going to get when I get there. So it's your business need justification. Anybody that wants to tell you why you're doing this project, you show them your business case. And your business case is not just you saying, I've put all these things here. Your business case has to be approved by your by the project sponsor and greenlit and financed. Because remember, it has all the, it says this is how much it's going to cost. So the business has to release those funds. Projects don't cost nothing. You being there as a BA, they're paying you. Every time you show up, they're paying you. Your delivery team, project team, Scrum Masters, they're paying all of you. They're paying all the SMEs that you're using. Every time you call them for a meeting, they'll ask you, that project you're working on, what's the project code? You give them the project code. They will bill that project to say, you took an hour of my time. An hour of my time costs £500. You need to pay me £500. That's how people make their money. So once your project is greenlit, you get a project code to say, this is the amount that has been put in the budget for this particular project. And you're going to all the different stakeholders. Hey, can I have you for 1 hour, 2 hours workshop? They're just putting it on your project code. Putting on your project code and collecting money, and the project is paying, because the project already knows it's going to cost that amount to do what it wants. So it's fine. Your project manager, whoever is responsible, understands the budgeting. So you have cost and benefit. Yes, it's going to cost us some money, but this is the benefit we're going to get. And this is why this thing is feasible. These are the risks, assumptions, dependencies. This is our recommended course of action. This is our investment plan, all of that. Even for organizations that do not require a formal business case, the thinking and the structure behind it is very important. So you can communicate your recommendation easily. Even if they don't ask you for it, they don't say, where's the business case? You need to have this kind of thinking to say, this is why, the justification behind all of this. Remember, it's not something, I started by saying it's not something a junior BA does. A junior BA, they assign you to you just go and do your work. But by the time you start thinking of this, you can see now that you're a parent. You're someone with authority. You're someone who actually knows what goes into all these things. And you'll be amazed how very few people know. So for you to know these things, like someone is pulling open the curtain behind, because all you ever see is the project. You don't know how that project came to be. You don't know all the work that went into it. This is what goes into projects most of the time, or what should. When you see an organization doing a business case, stay with that organization, or at least learn what you can from that organization. They know what they're doing. The people that don't, they will stumble in future. They will losses. We just spend so much money and blah, 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 blah. But business cases, they are so important, right? And a business case is made up of, it's a strategy analysis tool. That's what a business case is, right? So yes, like I said, that was the last bit I wanted to talk about. I know we're supposed to give you assignments. So for your task this week, let me stop sharing. For your task this week, we need to do a gap analysis of your current project, right? That's your task for this week. Very simple. I'm not pulling anything up for you. Very, very simple. Do a gap analysis of your current project. And that's in addition to all the different deliverables that you people were supposed to have done and supposed to have shown your POs and your people. I don't know if you've done it. When you have your demo next time, you can't escape it to, let me just give you, what do they call it? A little bit of a, what's the word am I looking for? Expo, right? So that's your assignment. Do your simple gap analysis for this. But yeah, that's basically it for me. I apologize. I think I've gone over my time, but I hope you got some value from the course. Like I said, it's just to introduce you to strategy analysis and to understand what goes on behind the curtain. All these decision makers, this is what they use. These are the tools they use. It's not so when someone tells you that a chief strategy officer, this is what they do, and they literally drive the organization. They move the organization. It's a powerful position to be in. You're the captain of the ship. You have a whole ship and you're the one steering because you know the destination and you know the course. So you chart your course and then you go. Everybody else is just in the ship. They're just going along for the ride. People that are working are working. People that are enjoying are enjoying, but you're the one steering the ship. So once you start putting things like strategy analysis on your CV and you start talking about, you went into some strategy sessions, they know you're not a novice. You're not a new person. You can't be to be driving the ship. You can't be. Yeah, by mere virtue of that fact, you can't be. So it's just something to let you know that there's a lot more to where we are. Obviously, we want you to start from the foundation and build up, but just know that there's a lot of career development ahead of you. And I know people are saying, oh, business analysis is saturated. It's the bottom that is saturated. When you upskill and you get to a particular level, you find out that very few people are there, and then your skills become more in demand. So yes, learn what you need to learn now, but upskill quickly. Okay, so you can get in that verified strategy air. Yeah. So that's basically it for today. Does anyone have any questions?
Yes, please. I have
Yes.
one question.
Go ahead.
So thank you for the training. It's been really amazing, awesome. Thank you so much.
You're
So,
welcome.
but I wanted to check for a greenfield project. what sort of techniques, should we use? Because it's a new project, it's in the greenfield, so I'm not sure what sort of analysis, or techniques we need to use for that, because so I don't know if you can,
So
tell.
you're telling me I should give you the expo to the assignment I gave you.
No, no, not for the, okay, yeah, that's true. That's what it would look like. Okay. But no, okay, so that's fine. Probably I would ask that after our demo on Monday. I would ask. I was just curious, because obviously we know.
Let me give you a
Mhm.
little bit of a snippet, right?
Okay, thank you.
I mentioned it initially. Yeah. Benchmarking. What is happening in that environment? It may be greenfield to your organization, but I can bet you it's not greenfield in your industry. It's not greenfield everywhere else. So what's happening out there? If you want to go into this particular field that is greenfield, it's not, you know, there are very few things that are brand new. No one is doing it. No one has ever done it before. So even if it's greenfield to your organization, it's not greenfield in your industry, it's not greenfield in other places. So research is a BA's best friend. Yes, you don't have to know everything, but sometimes it helps to have those conversations, to have an idea. So you even know what questions to ask. So before you go anywhere, just do some research, find out what is obtainable. Yeah, benchmarking. Remember, I told you being a competitor is not a bad word. It just means other people in your industry. What else are they doing? Yeah, so that would help you, and then you research. So even if, and then again, you don't do these things in isolation. So even when you go and research, you don't just go and research and say take, this is what I researched. You have a conversation, you do your research, you go and meet your key stakeholders and talk to them and say, okay, have you thought about this? What do you think about this? Yes, you may not want to do it now, but could it be something you do in future? Oh, no. I'm not really interested in that. Oh, this is brilliant. I like that. I like that idea. So the fact that you have a goal for this, a lot of projects have phases of releases. So they have, this is phase one, this is phase two, this is phase three. So this is what we're doing for phase one. But there are other phases in future. Your phone is always asking you to update because they're always updating. They're always doing things. If they're waiting until that thing is complete, none of us will have phones. So there's always continuous improvement happening. So even when you do your research, you also do it in conjunction with your stakeholders. Call them into a meeting and say, okay, what are your ideas regarding this greenfield thing? Yes, I know we have this phase, but for the future, what plans do you have? And you use all that knowledge and you use that to do whatever analysis you want to do, basically. So without, like I said, giving you the answer to the question, which I'm pretty sure I already have anyway, but it's just to kind of lead you and guide you in the right position, the right direction.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I appreciate that.
No problem. You're very
Mm.
welcome. Any other questions? No? Okay. Augusta, can you stop recording? I want to show